Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Occult Pod. Today, we're going to be talking about Project Bluebeam. Now, I know it's a bit strange that I'm doing the intro today, but we thought we'd switch it up a bit. And Project Bluebeam, for people who do not know, that is the manipulation of modern technology to make it seem as though there is an alien invasion occurring. This is used potentially as an excuse to bring in some form of NWO. For those who do not know what an NWO is, that's a New World Order. It's been spoke about in the past by many figureheads such as JFK, Obama, people of that ilk. And essentially what it is one world government, all ruled by one government, ruling everyone. So basically a sort of dictatorship where the imminent threat of an alien invasion poses enough of a risk to humanity that we need all come together to fight this one big enemy. And that is where the one world will come in. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk in the mainstream recently about that potentially occurring in terms of an alien invasion just coming down and wiping everyone out. We see a lot of aliens dotted about, like references to aliens in terms of UFO sightings in places such as Phoenix, USA, things like that. And it seems to be becoming like more of a mainstream topic and a mainstream talked about idea and phenomenon, whereas before it was very taboo and not a lot of people spoke about it. It was reserved more for conspiracy theorists, whereas I think a lot of conspiracy theorists now think that that's more of a psyop, that UFOs kind of exist on a level that we are like bred into believing that they exist. So in terms of that they come from another planet, I think a lot of conspiracy theorists like myself, like Ngombe, like probably Sylvia, would argue that they're more interdimensional rather than actually interplanetary. And Project Bluebeam marks this sort of mysterious idea where is it possible for the elites to pull something like this off and confuse a lot of the populace into believing that there is an alien invasion, and to be that scared into just taking the back seat and allowing the government to run however they want to run it. And yeah, is that an imminent enough threat to make that happen? You never know. But what do you think, Ngombe? What are your thoughts on Project Bluebeam? Is it a psyop, or is it a true reality that could potentially happen? Or are aliens actually a real thing? And could they come down and destroy us all?
Well, I'd say, to be honest, us conspiracy theorists are ahead of the curve. I've seen theories of Project Bluebeam years back when I was awake. Well, I first started awakening. First, I thought this whole alien thing was all nonsense, but as the years go on, the symbolism they show is apparent that this theory may come to light, especially during the recent World Cup. In the opening ceremony, we touched on it in a couple of episodes about the World Cup, the symbolism with the spirit of Jaiba, I believe that's the name, and just all the symbolism surrounding that suggests portals as well, and that all is a reference to Project Bluebeam. Like you said, Rowan, with the alien invasion and whatnot, it's very, I don't know, it's not scary times, I'd say, because the whole alien phenomena, I don't believe in all that stuff. But like you said, man, can the elites pull off a miracle to deceive the masses that aliens do exist? I think so, I think people are not as intelligent as we think we are, I think most people believe that aliens don't exist, but anything, the more they see something, the more that they will believe that this is true. It's kind of like manifestation in a sense. So yeah, like before doing this, I saw a video that someone suggested that in 2024 there could be an alien invasion. This is not for me. This is from someone else. So if that happens, don't put the blame on me.
Ngombe, god damn it! You've killed us all.
Yeah, but that's my take on it. And what are your thoughts? What else would you want to add on to what I just said?
Yeah, no, it's complete. It's so interesting that you see in the mainstream now. You see like a lot of references and stuff to portals and things like that, and seemingly aliens that are moving through interdimensional portals. That's why I think a lot of us mainstream like critical thinkers, not critical thinkers. I don't even know what to call ourselves anymore. You can't really say conspiracy theorists, can you? Because I think everyone's a conspiracy theorist on some level now. But people who are ahead of the curve almost see that potentially it's not actually that aliens are interplanetary, that they're interdimensional, because you see the work they're doing in places like CERN, where it seems like they're trying to connect to other universes or other dimensions. You see references to that in pop culture films such as Into the Spider-Verse, where they're using a massive Hadron Collider to try and connect into other parallel universes. And it's bringing in all sorts of different creatures from all over the place. And you think, is that actually what's happening on a reality level? And are the references to portals those sort of connections between the interdimensional and ourselves? So I think it's quite interesting to ponder that idea, and I think that's probably more possible. But I think the mainstream narrative is being pushed towards that it is interplanetary, when I don't think that's the truth. I think it is probably interdimensional. It's also interesting as well that, I don't know if you remember when the pandemic first kicked off, that there was all this talk of like, oh, in 2020 it'll be the pandemic, in 2021 it'll be World War III, in 2022 it'll be the aliens. It seems like there was always this push to subconsciously get people to believe that an alien invasion is coming on some level. I don't know how you feel about that, but it always feels like there's been this sort of threat, low key, that, oh, it's just a given fact that an alien invasion will occur in the next sort of 3 years with all the madness that's going on in the world. It's almost like the world has been broken and all this chaos has just been able to come in through some portal or the door, whatever's been brought in. But yeah, it's quite interesting. It's almost like quite a mainstream idea that an alien invasion could happen. It's like sort of a meme. It's become memeified. So yeah, I think it's interesting on that level. It's like, as well, I saw a tweet the other day and it said in 2015 or whatever, conspiracy theorists were pushing the idea that an alien invasion was imminent, and now it's turned on its head, where we don't think an alien invasion is coming. We just think it'll be the government that'll do it and fake one, like they'll fake an alien invasion. But back then we actually believed that aliens were going to come. So do you know what I mean? It's been this complete culture shift where I think a lot of the mainstream ideas are moving towards this more esoteric idea of like aliens coming down and whatnot, and genuine aliens. But I think a lot of us do believe that it probably on some level would be a manipulation of truth and wouldn't actually be the whole truth as we've seen, because we can, you can spot it from a mile off if you can see the clues. Well, yeah.
Totally. Because, like you mentioned, the 3 years of the pandemic to the supposed alien invasion, they're all chains, as you mentioned before at the beginning, towards the NWO, the New World Order. And you're starting to see now with the deep fake technology that they're putting on to further question people's perceptions of reality and holographic things that you see in the sky. I think that all is there to confuse the individual. It's almost like what we touched on last episode about simulation theory. If we have holographic figures of things in the sky, like I think you sent me one before in China, there's some holographic.
Yeah, the Chinese New Year.
Yeah, like that there is just pretty insane. So it does lead you to all the theories beyond Bluebeam, suggesting that perhaps do all these holographic, although if it's the elites doing it, then it's just the elites creating a holographic simulation. Like you said, it was I think as well, what before we done this as well, there were some steps that I saw of Project Bluebeam, and one was to essentially destroy religion. Have you seen that appear in Project Bluebeam?
I have on some level, yeah. I have on some level.
Yeah, because obviously with the NWO, if you want the New World Order, the old world needs to be destroyed, and the old world was dominated by religion. The age of Pisces transitioning to the age of Aquarius. That the other boss, as we've touched on before, if people remember, is the symbolism of the snake eating its own tail, death and regeneration. So it's quite clear that Project Bluebeam is just another piece to the puzzle of the higher ups for their NWO, and holographic figures of Jesus or any other Messiah in the sky can be used to manipulate people or to worship this character. That's perhaps what people describe as the second coming of Christ, or Horus, or any messiah in the religions that these people worship.
Yeah. So the whole playbook idea for Bluebeam is that there'll be an antichrist figure show up on the planet, and it'll be something that brings destruction to this world, and it almost creates a hell on earth. And then, which I think would be the leader of the alien faction or whatever that would be. And then, as a savior, we'd have these projections of, say, Jesus, Allah, all these prophets, all these religious prophets in the sky, and they'd be fabricated through holographic technology, and they'd come down and they'd say, look, it's all one world religion. We don't need to worship anyone. We are just deities that will stop this madness. We'll put this to an end. But you need to worship the government or whatever figurehead that is. And that's how they will instill this sort of idea in people's minds that we just need to worship one world religion instead of like multiple different religions. Because obviously, yeah, like if you have multiple religions, it's a lot harder to control the entire population. Whereas if you had one, like if you talk about one world government, I think that one world governing body would need to be almost underpinned by a religion, like a strong religion. I think a lot of people believe that's going to be like sun worship, and the idea of like that sun being the unity that unifies all, and we should all like look towards that, and that's where like Jesus and Allah and all these figureheads come from. They all come from the same place. So yeah, like the idea is that the one world religion will almost create the one world government, because it'll be a lot easier to control people if they have the same beliefs. And I think that's quite evident in today's society, where information's been manipulated and controlled so much that obviously like belief systems are being compartmentalized into just different pockets. So like if you have an idea that gender is there's only two genders, then you compartmentalized into a right wing category. Whereas, but it's like all these belief systems are being like forced and they're being squished down, and it's becoming more rigid. Whereas, so I think that's more manipulatable to a degree, where like you can just separate people. It's a lot easier to separate people. It's a lot of people that you want to control are easier to control, and the more those belief systems spread, these idea pathogens, and it's a lot easier to control people, because everyone will have the same belief systems at the end of the day, because they've been taught and manipulated and propagandized into believing those ideas. So yeah, I think it's all a big part of the plan to create this one world order, potentially. You never know. I often think when we're saying this on stream or on live stream or on YouTube or whatever, like, are we going to get hunted down when we're older, or are we going to get gang stalked? Well, like the Men in Black. But we're just theorizing. We're not saying this is the truth. We're just questioning whether this could be a possibility. So, but yeah, what are your thoughts on that? Do you have any thoughts to follow up?
Yeah, like you said, I think you see in society everyone believes in the same thing. So they've done it in a lower level at this point now. They're trying to do with religion to have everyone believe in the same thing. That's why you see the likes of Christianity going down. They've attacked the church in a sense, and obviously the higher ups, they created religion. Now they look set to destroy it. So the pendulum shift is there. They control both sides. So again, this is going off topic from aliens, which what Project Bluebeam seems to represent, but on the fact of religion, they're looking to destroy it. They're looking to build a new Abrahamic house, which they just opened 6 days ago in the UAE with the 3 top religions, and they have, yeah, it's called the Abrahamic House in the UAE. So obviously it was signed in 2019 by the Pope Francis and one of the imams of the major mosque.
Fuck you, Pope.
Yeah. Joking. The Pope's just a Jew pretending to be a Catholic, I think, because Catholicism just all stems from Judaism. So it's a big Ponzi scheme. And I think, obviously the Pope, he's getting his hands dirty for the NWO. He's a big player on that. But just going back to the alien phenomena, I think I don't believe in aliens. if aliens do exist, they probably come in the form of archons or whatever
Yeah.
that we've touched on before. Like, if even the imagery doesn't really make sense to me. Plus, as well, if aliens do exist, then people have to question everything, because you have to question God in a sense. Because if God created aliens, then we're literally not. We're inferior to these beings, if that's the case. So everything gets put on hold, and everything's questioned if aliens do exist. But I don't think that's the case, in my opinion.
No. I do think higher advanced civilizations probably existed, but I think they all exist on this planet. I think most likely there's an existence that we don't know about on this planet, whether that's Hollow Earth or whether that's in the sea, whether that's Atlantis or anything like that. I think those would probably be revered as alien technologies. So things that come to the surface like UFOs and stuff would probably relics from those civilizations or things that they still use, and we're just seeing them today. I don't necessarily think that aliens would, like, even scientifically, if you think about how big the universe is, or so we're told, it'd take millions and millions of years for them to travel towards us, even if they were traveling at the speed of light, because of the distance between, like, habitable planets. Inhabitable? Habitable. Found the word. Habitable planets. So yeah. So I do think that's sort of a psyop. Whereas if you would have asked me, say, 5 years ago, if I believe that aliens exist, I would have been like, yeah, of course they do, because imagine if you were just alone in the universe, how lonely that'd be. Or say, if we are alone, there's that adage where it's like, you're either alone in the universe and that's a scary thought, or the universe is packed full of aliens and that's equally as scary, because there's a looming threat. There's a more advanced civilization than us. And I think, yeah, if you'd have asked me 5 years ago if I believed that to be the case, I probably would have said yeah. But I think now I'm veering more to the idea that aliens are just interdimensional, and I do think there's other advanced civilizations that roam the Earth as well. I think there's a lot of things surrounding the planet. I don't think anything is off-world necessarily. Also, it's quite interesting to look back at recent media. You see, like, films such as, I don't know if you've seen Spider-Man, one of the most recent ones, Far From Home. So in that film, Mysterio, he has this technology that he uses the technology made by Stark, but I think it was his technology originally, where he has these drones and he can create holographic projections of things, and he uses it to manipulate people into believing that there's monsters on the Earth that have come down. They're called elementals, and they come down and they start destroying everything. But it's just him projecting these holographic images of these beings, and he uses drones as like machines to shoot at things to make it look like things are getting destroyed. So there is physical damage occurring, and essentially it's like this big manipulation. But I think it's quite interesting that that's in such a recent film as Spider-Man Far From Home, because I think it is quite it only came out in 2019. So I think it would be quite relevant today, and this be like a similar technology that use things such as drones to make it look like there were these holographic beings in the sky or whatever that were in the sky. And they could use basically like machinery and gunfire from those drones to create the illusion that they're actually like killing people and destroying people. So yeah, but you don't know what technology they have that they're not telling us about. I'm sure there's a lot of things that they've got that they just don't want to disclose to the public, because they're afraid that if it got out, then it'd be too much for people to handle. Do you know what I mean? So, but I think that's the technology that they'd use to do it if they were going to, and make it look like these aliens were actually like nasty beings who wanted to destroy everyone and take over.
100%. It's like, even, have you seen the ET films? Like,
yeah,
ET comes on. It's like, obviously, the acronym stands for extraterrestrial, if I've said it right. And in that word, you have the word terre, which is a French word. And that word actually means earth. So is that telling us that there's extra lands of Earth where aliens perhaps exist? Or is it's a weird one for me, but I think that could be the case. But if that, again, like I said, that questions our entire history, it questions the entire history of Earth. there's such exists an extraterrestrial civilization of human beings or aliens, So again, these movies, they put the truth in plain sight. The words that they use is very, very secretly hidden. So, like again, it's strange, but there seems to be hidden truths in these shows, these words that suggest things that aliens could exist, but I still don't believe it. The only thing or the only time where I'll believe in an alien is if I actually see it live. Like if it's next to me, I'd believe it. But until then, I'm not falling for any of the propaganda that is shown on the mainstream.
What if I'm an alien?
I believe you're an alien.
Can you not tell? When I blink, my eyes go like that instead of like that. You not noticed that?
No, I've not noticed that.
I'm not going to blink now, so you can't tell. Can't prove me wrong.
Yeah.
I'm just going to have to stay like this. My eyes are getting a bit dry now, I'm not going to lie. I need to blink.
Alien.
I'm an alien. What can I say? I'm from the planet Paradise.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's quite interesting that they always use these etymology as like a secret allusion, so they allude to something in the words. Yeah, that could be quite fascinating. It's like the idea that we're all living on turtles' backs. So this reality is run on a turtle's back, and then it's just turtle backs going all the way down. And maybe the aliens are from further down turtle backs, and they're all traveling up to this realm. You never know.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah.
It's like
yeah,
even the people that make these movies, where do they get this imagination of what an alien would look like? The head figure. It's like, where did they get that inspiration from? Because everything in this reality is copied, so they must have copied it from somewhere. So it is really interesting to see where they got the idea of the alien figurehead with his big back head and the eyes like going.
Well, like the greys.
Yeah.
The greys, as they're called, the grey aliens. Yeah, it's really interesting. I think it stems from a lot of people saying they've been abducted. I remember listening to a Jason Priche's podcast, and he was talking about how potentially like when people get abducted by aliens, it's just humans that dress in suits, and it sort of throws people off and makes people think who have been abducted. It makes them think that they've been abducted by aliens when it's just like humans testing them and wanting to put chips and stuff in them to track them, see where they're going. So yeah, I think if you were going to do that, you'd have like a special suit that you'd wear, like it'd be like a calling card almost, where everyone wears the same suit, and you wear like a grey suit with like the big black eyes, because it throws people off, and people are, oh, it must be an alien from another planet, when it could just be technology that they're using on this planet, and then they dress up and disguise themselves and make them look like something they're not. So that's why you have this pattern of seeing the same looking aliens in popular media. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that would make sense. It's quite interesting, really. I think you touched on greys. I think there's such a group exists. I've not looked into it as much, but I saw a Twitter thread yesterday that perhaps the greys are archons, which are AI. So if that's the case, then aliens.
It could be that also.
Yeah. I don't know. I have to see more, because someone could conclude that, but at the end of the day, you have to find your own truth. So that could be the case if greys are AI or aliens, and like we touched on initially about the Antichrist when we talked about the end of religion. The Antichrist perhaps is just artificial intelligence, and obviously we're seeing it now with ChatGPT and other AI features.
Yeah, which is scarily good.
You think so?
Although I am enjoying these videos where people they'll take like characters, or they'll take like presidents and stuff like that, and then do the audio, and then they'll do like ChatGPT, and they'll make it look. I don't know if you've seen, there was one where it was like Joe Rogan interviewing Jordan Peterson about the new Sonic game. It's quite funny.
Yeah.
So they're enjoyable.
But, yeah, I saw a deep fake of what's his name, Biden and Ben Shapiro playing Minecraft or whatnot.
Yeah. There's a lot of them going around at the minute. My favorite is there's the president's playing called Zombies. There's a lot of them videos, but they're fucking hilarious.
Yeah,
it's interesting because you just start to worry like what happens when they become sentient and it becomes a matter of us not controlling what they're saying and them just doing it themselves. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, true.
And maybe putting themselves on the world stage. Maybe that's it. Maybe it is like an AI form that will come and it'll be like, oh, I'm going to take over and stuff like that. And then we need, I don't know. There's a whole host of things going on. There's so much going on. Just to refer back to you talking about E.T., it's quite interesting as well because that film was obviously directed by Steven Spielberg. And it's got another film called Close Encounters with the Third Kind, which I don't know if you've seen.
No, I've not seen that.
That's about an alien researcher, UFO researcher, who basically communicates with the aliens, and they say they're going to be at this place at this time, and they get loads of people to see this alien ship come down, and they're greeted by aliens. It's quite interesting. It's not that simple, obviously. That's a very brief synopsis of what happens in the film. But it seems to have sort of a fascination with aliens. Also, it was born. I don't know if you knew this. It was born in Arizona, in Phoenix, which is quite interesting because recently there's been a lot of talk about Phoenix and Arizona being this place where UFOs are being sighted in USA, like the Chinese spy balloons and stuff like that. And then you see like people talking about UFOs in that area. And obviously, like Steven Spielberg references aliens in a lot of his films. Also, the Super Bowl this year that took place, that was at Arizona and Phoenix, and a lot of people were saying that there'd be UFOs showing up at that game. I don't know who said that. That's just what I've heard in places like Twitter. So like UFOs will be popping up because there's just so many sightings there at the minute. So yeah, it just seems that this whole fascination with UFOs at the minute in the USA, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if they're meddling with some sort of technology or they're testing out technology that's been lost, or they're trying to connect to something in the desert. Have you heard the story of, was it Marvel Jack Parsons or was it Aleister Crowley, who they were basically trying to contact the
Crowley.
Yeah, but Marvel Jack Parsons as well. He was like his assistant, not assistant, but they worked together.
Associate or something like that.
Yeah, it was like an associate, but I've heard they used to go into the desert and perform rituals and stuff like that, and they were trying to basically open portals to other dimensions by doing these rituals. I'm not going to go into too much detail in what they did during the rituals, but it was always in the desert, and I think that's why there's always these links to seeing UFOs and stuff in the desert. I think that is why I'm more convinced that these are interdimensional. And obviously we have a lot of talk of portals and stuff at the minute in popular media, like you said, with things such as the World Cup. And just in general, there's always these like ideas of portals. So
yeah, because
strange connections.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like you have to question why is there's no land in the Sahara Desert. I mean, there's no humans inhabiting there. So what's it used for? If no humans are living there. Doesn't make sense. Well, at the same time, at the thought, I don't know if it's complete nonsense how like the Super Bowl, the ball that they use looking like a flying saucer. I don't know if that's just me thinking about nonsense about the Super Bowl ball or something. Looking like some
the Super Bowl ball looks like a flying saucer. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
What this year it did?
Yeah.
I didn't really catch on to that. Why did it look different to a normal football?
No, it probably does look the same, but I don't know. That was in my head at the time. Maybe I'm just spouting out nonsense, but
yeah. Maybe that's you just seeing connections where they are there, which is a possibility to what we're doing, but
yeah,
you never know. I think there's something more to the connections and the synchronicities that you see with like UFOs and stuff.
Yeah, but everything happening in Phoenix is obviously symbolic of the bird itself in mythology, where it dies and is reborn again. So we know that entails with the NWO and other forms. Anything that dies, the Phoenix Ouroboros represents the same thing, really. All these myths detail everything that happens in this world, death and regeneration.
Exactly. And that's the thing, like all these things seem to be spoke about in, say, the Bible. But whether that's a playbook that the elites are playing out, whether that is the truth, and that's the thing. Truth is so hard to pin down nowadays because there's so much information out there. I think that's part of the tactics, though, to confuse people into not knowing what's going on and not understanding what's happening in the world. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
There was another part of the Project Bluebeam theory that I'm not sure if you're aware of, where, so obviously in the Bible it refers to a rapture in Revelations, where people get sucked up into the sky, basically, who have been chosen to go to heaven. But it would be used during Project Bluebeam as a clever excuse to exterminate a lot of people by basically like sucking them up into something in the sky, like they put like a huge magnet in the sky. It's quite an interesting theory. They put like a huge magnet or something of that ilk in the sky, which would drag people up into the air and have these like beams come down to make it look like there was beams coming down to pull people up, like there would be during the rapture. But basically, they'd just be going up and they'd be churned into like a blender or something like that, and they'll just be killed. So a lot of people on Earth would be thinking, oh, that they're going to heaven, they've ascended, they must have done something right. But they're just getting killed, basically. And it's a clever way to just reduce the population very fast.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's quite interesting because I think I spoke about this on the last episode. I was talking about the film No, wasn't I?
Yeah.
Which I don't know if you've done any more research into, but basically there's this alien in the film where he comes down and he flies over people and he like sucks them up, and then they get put into this like big mesh and they just get killed. They get like squished.
That's insane. So
it's similar, and it follows the idea of a rapture, but they're actually just getting sent up to be killed, basically. And then there's no way you can disprove that that's actually happened, because if you see people getting sucked into the sky like with a beam, you're like, oh my god, they must be ascending into heaven. Like, where else could they have gone? But they're just getting sucked. Quite gruesome, but I'm not saying this is going to happen, by the way, guys. I'm just saying this is part of the theory of Project Bluebeam. Please don't come for me, FBI.
Yeah, that's all it is. It's a theory, obviously.
It's an interesting theory.
Yeah,
it's quite a fun theory.
Yeah, absolutely. From what I've done with some research, that it was proposed by this Canadian investigative journalist, where supposedly NASA and the UN are involved. I mean, if there's aliens involved, of course NASA want to get their hands on it. You know, they've already faked a lot of things, you know, out of space. But you know, the moon landing and whatnot. But hey, of course, you know, anything involving NASA most of the time would be fake. So Project Bluebeam is just a psyop, in my opinion.
I heard something really interesting, you know, recently.
What was it?
NASA was actually set up originally. I'm not sure how true this is. I heard this on a podcast. So please forgive me if I'm spouting absolute shit here. I heard that NASA was actually set up to explore the sea and not space.
That could make sense, because when they go in space, you can sometimes see air bubbles. Have you ever seen those kind of videos? So that does kind of make sense. They're just disguising outer space as underwater or the underground, whatever.
Well, exactly. There's a theory as well that when you go underwater, the further you go underwater, it just becomes space. So above like the sky we see is sort of water as well. So that'd explain the firmament. And it's like a sea above us and a sea below us. As above, so below. But the further you go out, it actually becomes space. Because I think there's been people that have said that, like, when they've gone out into space, they've seen like creatures and stuff swimming, look like sea creatures. I'm not sure how true that is. But yeah, it's interesting to think that NASA was set up as like a sea exploration job rather than space exploration. And they changed. Because potentially it's along the same ilk.
Well,
and that's why like the technology translates between the two things, like they're able to use submarines in space and things like that.
Yeah, that does make sense. So if space is underwater, then that's why it appears, you know, like in that means that, you know, like in ancient apocalypse, where Graham talks about how the earth was transformed, right? There's going to be some discoveries underwater.
Yeah.
So underwater is just what NASA call outer space. Then there's things to be discovered there.
So there's space all around us. There's space underneath us and there's space above us.
Absolutely.
So I guess in that sense, you could say they are visitors from the sky. If they're coming from the sea, if they're coming from Atlantis, they're technically from space.
Yeah.
Also, as well, this is probably a completely bogus idea. It's just quite funny to think about. If space is the sea, it'd explain why the sky's blue. Because obviously, like the sea's blue.
Yeah, the projection.
Yeah, we're told. Yeah, but that's not actually the reason why it's blue, is it? The reason that it's blue is because, well, they say it's nitrogen. That's the reason. That's the reason it's got a blue hue. It's because of the nitrogen in the sky. But what if it is just the sea up there, and that's why it's blue? It's nothing to do with nitrogen. Whoa, deep thoughts with the deep.
Yeah, there's actually a kids' TV show called The Deep.
Yeah. There's a place in Hull called The Deep as well. I don't know if you've been.
No, I've not been.
It's an aquarium. It's an aquarium, massive like an aquarium, but they've got loads of fossils and stuff from old sea creatures. I don't know if you heard as well. This is completely off topic, but apparently scientists are working on bringing the woolly mammoth back to life. Genuinely, I'm not capping. I'm not capping. You can look this up. And that seems like the first chapter to Jurassic Park.
Yeah, absolutely. Trying to bring dinosaurs and mammoths back to life.
Yeah. But back to Project Bluebeam. Kind of feel like we've veered off topic there again. There's this music video by Kanye West, which is quite interesting because I've got the Donda background at the minute, and the song is off the album Donda. It's called Heaven or Hell, and in the video, it's almost as if there's just people on the floor, and they're all on their phones, so staring at the phones, and then they get beamed up. They start spinning around Kanye, and then they like ascend. So that's sort of reference to the rapture. But it's interesting. It's called Heaven or Hell, and all these people are on the phone. The idea was that like the phone is sort of like a link that sends them into the sky, basically. So there's like a chip or something that's pulling them up, and that's why they become magnetic, basically, because of whatever chip they have. There's also a film, I can't remember the name of the film, but I remember reading about it, where basically like the phone signal of the Earth gets messed up, and it beams this idea to people's heads that they need to go round and round cell towers. So they just start like circling around cell towers and start ascending at one point in the film, like they start going up. So it's quite interesting. There's all these references to technology and things of people like spinning in circles and then ascending, almost like a rapture would occur. I can't remember the name of the film. I'd have to look it up. I remember reading it on a Twitter thread.
Yeah,
but they almost become the zombie. They almost become zombified, basically.
That's interesting. Then we mentioned about technology. It relates back to transitioning to 5G. Would you say 5G relates to Project Bluebeam at all?
Potentially, but I don't know if you've read about 6G.
I've heard of it, but what is it about, this 6G?
So they want to basically use us as antennas. That's the idea of it. So they're going to use us as an antenna to transmit 6G. So you can basically, the idea is, you can get a signal anywhere. It'd be super fast because you'll just be next to people who are giving off 6G. But obviously, it's a bit, it's a bit. What's the name of it? The fourth stage of the technological revolution. It's a bit Klaus Schwab, when they're going to start putting chips in us to be able to transmit 6G. And I think that is the start of being able to manipulate people's thoughts.
Absolutely. And what does it have to be G? It's probably the Masons involved in.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, but like you just on Kanye West with the Donda and all the possibly symbolism of Project Bluebeam. He obviously made some reservations or remarks about the Jews and whatnot, and again, he's using that tool to divide people. And I saw on Twitter he mentioned, I don't know if he's suspended. He put some scripture about Jesus being the King of Jews, which does exist, by the way. But it's very interesting, this guy involved in everything.
Yeah, it seems like he's a figurehead that's been used for controversial takes. I do think he's been manipulated. I think he's very controlled. It wouldn't even surprise me if that interview that got put out with Alex Jones was like a staged thing, just to basically getting completely cancelled. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think he said in a recent episode though that his name or his nickname, he said it means God. Is that correct?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe so. You can look that up. I think so. Yeah, it's another word for God.
Yeah, it's insane.
Right, I'm going to have to dash anyway.
Yeah, it's been good.
I need to get my hair cut.
Well,
priorities.
We have to wrap this up. Rowan's got to get his haircut. He's a busy man. He's got a good week ahead. We may even meet at some point. He's coming to my city.
Yeah, in-person podcast would be good.
Yeah.
We'll have to do it over StreamYard anymore. Goodbye, StreamYard.
No. Goodbye, StreamYard. We'll find a studio, recording studio, and doing in-person podcasts. That'd be great.
Yeah. Do it at the library, Engombe's library that it goes to. Could be facing each other on the table.
Yeah, with the fancy mics and whatnot.
Yeah. Like first man setup.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, welcome back to the video, this podcast. We're talking about the occult.
But yeah, anyway, let's not keep him for too long. He's ready. And, thanks for tuning in, guys. It's been great.
Thank you, everyone.
Hope you enjoyed this conversation about Project Bluebeam, and don't get too wrapped up in the delusion in the mainstream about UFOs and aliens and whatnot. Just be focused on the present, enjoy your life, and stay away from the mainstream. So yeah, once again, thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Peace. Bye.